24 to order at 6:25. And do roll call, please.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Councilmember Fairley.
Here.
Councilmember Osborne. Here. Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
I'm making a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 4, presentation, streetlight options.
Yes, all right.
Wait.
So my name is Elena Berlucci. I work at CTAC Lighting. Our office is just up the road in Tukwila. And we are a lighting manufacturer's rep. So we represent 150 different lighting manufacturers, and then of that, probably about 12 that focus on street lighting. So cobra heads, aluminum poles, steel poles, concrete poles, everything from really ornate, decorative downtown streetscape type of lighting to traditional washdot, you know what I mean, steel poles. So my whole role is to work with municipalities and utilities to help you select the right product for your project. Whether it's something that's a little fun, kind of decorative, trying to come up with some city standards, or something strictly functional where you're just trying to maybe standardize on a type of overhead. And so, King Luminaire is one of the manufacturers that we represent. They focus on decorative, kind of historic and contemporary style luminaires that you often see, in downtown streetscapes. They are based in Jefferson, Ohio. It's a family-run company, and they've been doing this for about, I think we're getting closer to 60 or 70 years. So they have a couple of different facilities that focus on different product types. And so in Ohio, it's where they're building all of their luminaires. And then concrete poles is one of their other product types. And they have a couple of facilities in Alabama and Arkansas that do the spun concrete poles. In the state of Washington, kind of the Puget Sound, PSC installs a lot of King Luminaire, Seattle City Light, City of Renton, City of Bellevue, trying to think of some other, City of Sumner. So you may have seen some of their products installed in other municipalities. I think Russ, when he had reached out, had seen a photo of a pole and fixture combination in Othello, Washington, and that kind of sparked interest. I don't know if it was him or someone brought it to him. So that is a concrete pole and decorative luminaire and arm combination that we developed for the city of Othello. And so what I put together in the presentation that you guys can't see are just some photos of installations from the area, and then kind of putting together a concept, a line drawing of what Russ had been interested in presenting to you all. And so what you have in front of you is a full catalog that's going to have a million options and different pole types. And so I think the whole point today was to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions, or if there is something that piques your interest that differs from what we've kind of pulled together. Yeah, so I guess with that, does anyone have any specific questions or?
I just have one right off the bat. Say like you have a project go on, what's the lead time?
Yeah, so that can vary throughout a calendar year, just kind of based on construction schedules, right? Spring, summer tends to be a pretty popular time for projects across the whole country to kind of be in the works. And so it can vary. The best kind of lead time for luminaires is going to be about 8 to 10 weeks. but that can stretch out to 16 sometimes if it's really busy. Concrete poles, same thing. More often than not, we're in the 10 to 12 week time period, but that can stretch out as well. I think right now, if you were to place an order today, they're looking more like 16 to 18 weeks for products.
So I know a few years ago they were having challenges.
Yes, COVID was really challenging for lighting manufacturers. I mean, a lot of different entities, right? But getting components and some of the smaller suppliers, that really put a kink in things. And I would say, you know, almost 2025, and we're just starting to see that be completely alleviated.
So right now it's just back to normal.
Yeah, we're getting closer to back to normal. Something else that's really significant that's impacting things lately is the Build America, Buy America legislation. The focus on making sure that products are not only assembled in the US, but truly sourced in the US. And so if you were to go seek funding, grant money from the federal government, that will have stipulation that your products need to be sourced and built in the US. The nice thing about King is they comply with that, right? They have facilities in the US, that's where they're building their poles, their arms, their fixtures. But that also has changed lead times a little bit too, because they've had to shift their components and suppliers for the different pieces that go into their products from overseas to the US. And that's just kind of changed the food chain a little bit.
So we have some pricing quotes here, some of the stuff's a little ornate. So what's kind of the high and low end of the spectrum? You talked about a washed out light and a super fancy one.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of different product types, and they all have their benefits, and then obviously cost can vary across those. So for pedestrian scale, so anything from about 12 feet to 16, I would say on the lowest end, while still being decorative, you're looking at about $4,000 for the assembly. And that can get up to $6,000 if you're adding planter arms and irrigation lines and things like that. And then when we get into the roadway scale, where we're talking 25 feet to maybe 30 feet, that can be anywhere from like 7,000 to 10,000. Again, dependent on accessories. Are we doing banners? Are you guys doing flower pots? Things like that. Typically for municipalities, I wouldn't really see going much beyond 30 feet. WashTrack uses 40 feet, obviously on the highways, but typically for municipal arterials, you can kind of stick to that 25 to 30 foot range.
Are you talking just the arm itself and the light,
For the
25 to 30 feet?
So the height of
The height,
yeah,
okay.
the height. And then the arms can vary, right?
Right.
Just depending on
So
what
are you
you
talking
set.
to $4,000 just for the light pole or
The whole assembly. So the light pole, the anchor bolts, the luminaire, all together, that entire package.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got
I have a question. You guys actually install or you just purchase them and deliver the product?
We are just the rep, so we will just
Okay.
build it,
So
deliver
do
it.
you know as a rep, did you, you said Sumner, so there was all these lights involved installed on Sumner and on Valentine Road. So they're all the spun concrete with the rock in it and the old school light on the top.
So Sumner does King Luminaire fixtures, but I don't believe they do concrete poles. They do aluminum poles.
Okay.
I could be wrong. There might be a stretch where they're doing concrete, but I believe more often than not they're using a metal. And that's an option for you guys as well if you wanted to see a budget for an aluminum pole versus concrete. That's something that I could easily put together for you as well.
And the other question I have is, as a rep, do you guys have any connection to solar?
Yeah.
Who do you work with?
So we have a couple of different manufacturers. So Hapco poles, they do aluminum poles. They have a solar option. It's basically a wrap module that goes over the pole shaft. And then you can kind of utilize whatever light fixture you want. And then we have Green Frog Solar. They're based in Australia, but they have their US headquarters out of Dallas area.
So does
And
that fall under the Buy America?
they do not.
Okay.
So HAPCO does, but they do not. The other thing too about the Build America, Buy America, there are some kit clauses where not 55% of the item needs to be sourced in the US, but 45 can be from elsewhere. And so there are a couple of combinations where you can use the pole and the light sourced in the US, but maybe the solar panel itself comes
Are you
from.
familiar with Solar Illuminations?
Uh-uh.
Okay, there's a company they're built here in the
Oh,
United
they are?
States, yes.
Oh, okay. And are they just building panels or are they?
They have panels and the actual light for parking lots
Oh,
on the
nice.
street.
Kind of combined.
And they're self-contained.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I'll have to check them out.
When we started talking about this in 2015, when I was on council, we were talking about using a similar pole, adding to the poles that we have and putting a light fixture on the wooden poles that we have. Somehow now we've gone from utilizing the poles that we have to now we've gone to custom poles. And so because I remember what the cost was to add just the fixture.
Anywhere from 700 to 1500.
Yeah.
It's more now.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be more now, but even 25, if it was 2,500. But, the only time I would see, and this is just my opinion, the only time I would see us using a custom pole of any kind is if we were just gonna start developing down First Avenue or Main Street, Milwaukee. And, I think the whole thing that I wanted to start was if you go in my office and you look in the south end of town, or even up where I live on 8th Avenue, in the middle of that block is black. So the intent was to, if I remember right, was just to add, where we could add a light fixture to the poles. And now we're looking at $1 million to.
But I think, Mayor, that we were also looking at creating a standard as well. Yeah, we do need lights out there for pedestrian, but for projects and future capital projects.
Okay.
If we're looking at a standard.
Well, a standard, so like over at Algona Village.
Yes.
What kind of standard lighting do we want to have there? Got it.
That was the attempt of the planning commission to talk about First Avenue, Milwaukee, and then work your way down to the new project. And that was
Okay.
why we went that direction. We still know we need to just have the cheapo 2 bolts and it's hanging off a street light.
Okay.
For the,
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is, up in Roslyn, they did exactly that. They still went decorative with the luminaire style, so a little bit more than, $1,000 to add lighting. But they utilized the existing utility poles and just had the decorative arm bolted with some lag bolts in there and the fixtures. So you can kind of, but to your point, right, developing a standard for the future that you're not necessarily gonna go throw 20 out there today, right? But in the future.
Exactly. Plus, if you go get them, you're going after the feds to get money for that. You have to allow your standards as well.
Right.
So,
No, I'm good. I just,
any future standard that we have, we gotta be careful because there's matching money on most of those grants.
Are we gonna figure out some way to trim the trees so that the light is not just under the tree?
no.
Yeah.
Why would we do that? Yes.
It seems like.
Maybe someday we'll get a public works director and then you guys can pile all of that,
Since you're the supplier, is there lights available now to replace some of the lights we have in the city that throw strictly a 60-foot circle or lighting and it doesn't go in? Is there anything that throws a little further out in a pattern?
Yeah, I mean, with LED, I don't know what you guys have up right now. Is it just like Cobra heads with like
Most of them.
sodium or something?
Don't most of those belong to PSE?
Uh,
No, because I signed a check to PSE to pay for lighting.
they do.
And so with that, if we're paying PSE, we just paying for the electrical, or are we paying for the,
We also pay them for, street lights, meaning the, like, blinking light, the intersections.
right, do we own those fixtures?
Typically,
These
you
are questions
install
I
it,
should
and
know.
then you pay, typically you install it, pay for that, and then you pay a fee, PSE, which includes the power, because they're not metered, and the service. So they would, if it's X number of dollars.
Well, the only reason I ask that is because he's asking about changing bulbs, and if we don't own that light, then.
Right, no, but there's some lights that are only focused in like 30 to 40-foot circle, and if you had a better light that would actually reach out, then still
I
like
agree.
space
No,
out,
no, I agree.
it'd be a little more
Yeah, so
light.
with LEDs, there's a lot more options out there with distribution patterns, right? So that's all of the optics and previously metal halide and HPS, it's just a bulb, and so that's probably what you have, because that kind of just creates that
I think
wall
some of the
effect.
ones that are on Main Street are LED,
Are they?
but don't quote me on this,
Yeah.
but I know that they were there when I moved in, that was 18 years ago.
Yeah, so they're maybe first gen.
Yes.
So now there's a lot we can do where, we can take a look exactly at what streets you're, trying to illuminate, where the fixture would be mounted, how high, and actually give you a footprint of where we would see the illumination.
And I think changing those out is easier than we think, because they're more dwelling that assist you. All the utility poles are on by PSC, so the other lights, most of the aluminum ones that are out in the neighborhoods, those are all quiet.
Those are all
by us. Those are owned by us.
Okay,
But you still pay on those lights.
right, we still gotta pay for power.
So we sold it.
Yeah, solar's tricky in the Northwest, but it is doable for sure. And as technology's gotten better, there's definitely options out there that would suffice, right, and get you through. I mean, right now it gets dark at 4 p.m. And then doesn't get light again until 7 a.m. So the winter is tough in the Northwest, but there are options that make solar viable. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, it'd be like, I don't know if you're going to be able to get through the winter and actually have illumination during the night.
What's the percentage increase from just standard to solar?
Oh, from a cost perspective, it's just a completely different animal, honestly. So I think the best case would be to get some figures and because there's also different fixture styles, right? The fully contained units, where they're a little bit more like shoebox kind of overhead look, and then which is probably what you'd want to do if you were going to go to solar in those applications. And then there's the solar poles where you have more flexibility with what style of fixture. If we're talking about kind of like future standards, not for right now, but that can be a little bit more expensive.
What's the ROI on solar?
A lot of factors, right? Because how much are you paying for power? How often are you operating them? Things like that, But I mean, so let's say I just was helping out City of Kent was looking at some all-inclusive units, and I think they're about $2,000 for the solar luminaire, the panel, the battery, all that's included in that. Whereas if you were to do a Cobra head of a similar LED wattage of maybe, 25 to 30, you're looking at sub 200. You know what I mean? So it's definitely more significant on the upfront. But if you're paying a lot for power, maybe it'd pay for itself in a few years. I don't know. I'm seeing solar use in most cases where trenching is too expensive, right? Getting power to a location would be too costly, and so they're going to solar instead. But if you already have power there, I'm not sure it is the same.
I think what would concern me is the four-way stop. We got the flashing lights. If you get 2 days like we've had, you don't flash. And it quits flashing.
Oh, is it solar right now? The flashing
Yeah.
light? Gotcha.
That's why it's big.
Yeah.
And now
So that's what I mean. So it's that's why for the Northwest, you really have to look at, okay, what are we sizing? How long are you going to operate it? Can we do
So,
motion sensors?
For government-based, buying solar for government cities, is there still government grant money?
Oh yeah, there's a lot out there for solar.
Okay.
I'm obviously like solar, because if you look at my house, I've got a 30 by 40 foot solar. So, I know what the ROI on that was, it was 8 years.
Really, yeah.
And now
Depending
we're just paying,
where the panels are, you have to clean those every once in a while.
no, it's every 3 years, it cost me $300 to have a guy come out and clean it.
Across the city per pole. Clean those up.
Well, is looking into solar something that we wanna just discuss it? Okay. Do we have any more questions?
Has there been a survey of the streets and what's needed, so we have an idea of the expense that we're looking at?
Did that 2014, didn't we? Or that
Yeah.
was on the planning commission?
Yeah, that was done in 2014.
Things kind of changed a lot since.
I don't think so.
10 years.
No.
There are more trees growing.
Trees are easy.
There's Dean, look at somebody right on it.
That's a big deal, because you put them up in the tree, do good.
Well, I know that.
So
You guys will be all calling me tomorrow.
You must have heard about that before.
Well, I'll get that PowerPoint from you and then I'll share it with council.
Yeah. Yeah, then you guys just let me know if you're happy with kind of the look that we've put together. If you see something in those catalogs that you like better, and you wanna see kind of what that would entail, like I'm happy to put as many options in front of you as you want. I know sometimes that can be worse, having too many things to choose from, but just let me know what you guys like in terms of style and aesthetic, things we can get you information on other options as well.
So the spun concrete versus the aluminum, what's the life expectancy of both?
Forever. Concrete poles hold up really well, and they, like a light pressure wash, they look brand new. So, I mean, those suckers can be out there for long now. Yeah, that's true. As long as the car doesn't hit them. They also can hold a lot, so the loading power, if you want to do banners, planter arms, things like that, you don't really have to size up. They kind of are just very strong. Aluminum, also great, you know, doesn't rust, don't have to worry about any thing like that versus steel, right, where you're galvanizing part of and things like that. Aluminum's light, it's kind of nice to install from an installation perspective. Capco, that's our aluminum pole manufacturers, they do a lifetime warranty on their poles, so it kind of speaks to just the quality and the longevity of aluminum.
What's the price difference between the two?
You know, aluminum's probably more cost competitive today. There was a time where concrete maybe was more cost competitive, but I bet aluminum would be more cost competitive.
I like the look of the aluminum.
You wanna look at aluminum? Okay.
I like the look of the aluminum, it's just, to me, it's a cleaner.
Yeah.
Not that.
So, I got another question, once we get past this standard part, when are we gonna start lighting up the rest of the city?
You are the mayor, whenever you sign the check.
Well, yeah, whenever I signed the check, I didn't realize it was grant money.
Yeah, good grants.
So, that's real, I really like working towards putting some lights around the city. It'd be nice to have a standard, but am I getting ahead, or?
No, you're fine. We generally try to budget 20,000 for replacing streetlights every year. We just have had other priorities.
How much
I
is
don't wanna
that?
replace, I wanna add.
What was that?
I wanna add streetlights, where there's no streetlights and we need the light.
So one of the things the electricians run into on the ones we're trying to replace or rewire, I was talking to them today, they can't find the source. It's not on PSE's map, it's not on any city map that they can find, but they can't find the source for the power on the ones up in the industrial area.
All the ones we're trying to get replaced,
Mm-hmm.
they stole the wire out of.
Yeah,
But what about the neighborhoods?
It only hurts.
That's what I'm interested in is
Mhm.
lighting, like.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready,
Okay,
absolutely.
No, for adding, are you guys just talking about like adding to the utility poles, like an
Right,
alarm and like
so we
a
gotta-
security light? Yeah.
I don't know how that
Just
works.
in trouble.
I'm sorry, I have been whispering in my ear.
That's all right, I don't know how that works, if you gotta, if you go down, let's say we put, just use Clay Street as an example.
Yeah.
And you got wires that run along, you got a pole in the middle of Clay Street, and you wanted to add a light to it. So does power come from do they put some up there, we can draw power, PSC put some there, they can draw power from the wires that are up there? Or is it,
You know, I'm married to the lineman, so I can ask him when I get home tonight. But as far as I know, it's a service ticket you put into PSC and they can come out and get you power to the pole.
All the ones on Main Street are all the power poles and all just from the power pole lines down to the street.
okay,
But yeah.
Main Street, so.
I'll ask her.
I'm thinking the same thing too, so.
Yeah.
Cause I remember when we talked about it, that was included in hooking them up if you just added the light.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Pass it on to the
thank
developers.
you.
Yeah, of
We're gonna
course.
move on because we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Okay. We have nothing under discussion, now we're at audience participation. We've been participating for the last half an hour.
I've run out of questions for the workshop.
And I can read this in.
Note the date and time.
The city council encourages public participation during meetings of the city council and welcomes your comment. It's time to set aside for you to speak to the city council on any issue. The council ordinarily takes non-agenda matters under advisement before taking action. You are also invited to comment on action items as they are considered during the meeting. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each in addressing the city council. When addressing the council, please speak clearly, audibly, state your name and address for the record. If anybody wants to speak,